Welcome to the Food Life Drinks Edition. I'm your host, Susie Davidson Powell, and we're here in Saratoga Springs. Now, of course, Saratoga, you think of horse racing and the summer season, but winter is coming. If you know New York State, upstate New York, you know it's cold. And we're thinking about hearty food and what sort of wines we could pair with it. Or maybe if you're entertaining, just the people in your household. So I've come here today to Solevo to talk to Giovannina Solevo and to figure out what sort of food we can pair with some delicious wines. So let's go in. Hi, Giovannina. Thank you so much for letting us come and talk to you today. So, as you know, as none of us can avoid, it's getting colder. We're all thinking about hunkering down. Upstate winters are when we start thinking about comfort food. We're no longer sipping on our really light, crisp wines. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit today. But first of all, your background, you are a certified sommelier. You are the co-owner of this restaurant with your brother, Ronnie, who is the chef. And I know that you guys are making all your own pasta and you're making all of these incredible sauces. So my instinct is to first of all kick off with talking about red wines because people feel as if, you know, it's getting cold. We need to shift over to these robust, full-bodied, you know, really kind of juicy, fruit-forward, plush wines. So is that just a misnomer, or is that something that you feel as if is the general trend?
I feel definitely that it is a general trend going from summer and everyone's either drinking rosé or Pinot Noirs or something Beaujolais Nouveau, something very light, moving towards more braised meats and heavy sauces and everything like that. You just do tend to move, like when you're sitting in front of a fireplace, you definitely want something that feels like you're by the fireside, not like something that tastes more like water or lighter. If you're drinking like a Pinot Grigio in the summer, something like that, you're starting to move towards something a little bit oakier or heavier. If you're drinking Pinot Noir in the summer with your steak, you're moving kind of towards something that's more of a like super Tuscan, a blend, or even a really nice Chianti or Sangiovese.
Right, right. Well, so you've got all the sort of the woodsy, the spicy flavors. And, you know, we might think of a chillable red in the summer, something, you know, like a Gragnano, yep. Or, and now we're really looking for that kind of cozy warmth. So I see that you've got a selection here and you've already poured something. So clearly this is very deep in color. So yes. Can you tell us a little about this?
So obviously all of these are from the Solevo wine list. This is no particular order really, just gonna go through a few, but this is the Ripassa. So it is the Corvina grape. It's from the Veneto. I don't wanna be too, I want this to be an approachable experience for everybody because wine's intimidating.
Yes.
I mean, it still is for me, and I feel like I know a lot about it.
Right.
This is a wine that is the Corvina grape, and they dry out part of the grapes and then press them. So you get those raisiny kind of prune-like flavors because it's dried out.
And it gives it that jammy kind of...
Definitely jammy.
Right.
It definitely is a full-bodied wine. Goes really good with like a pork shank or a pot roast or something along those lines, or something that cooks in the oven all day, basically.
Right.
Yes.
Something robust.
Yeah. We could give it a little try if you want.
I think we should. I mean, it would be big not to. Okay. Cheers. I'm looking at that, the way it's clinging to the glass. So, okay, so take us down.
So, gonna go to, this is a Sangiovese Chianti Classico. DOCG. It is Castellare. One really cool thing about this vineyard is that it is a bird sanctuary.
Oh, really?
So this wine is kind of like an everyday, if you're looking for like an everyday drinking wine, it pairs really good with like a lasagna. It complements the food rather than taking over the food, if you know what I mean, when
Absolutely.
you're eating it. But I mean, you could also sit down and kind of open this and have a glass, not even eating anything. It's just such an approachable wine.
And I always think of Chianti as something that you can have with pizza, you could have it with sausages.
Yes.
You can have really kind of, what am I going to pull together for dinner tonight? And this is something that you can pair with it in the winter.
Reasons why like there's those basket wines and like those cheeky Italian restaurants or like Little Italy. It's because like you could open those bottles and every type of wine drinker is going to be like, I could drink this with the food. You know what I mean?
For sure. Okay.
Moving down, this is a Super Tuscan. Right. So it is a Bordeaux style Super Tuscan. That means that there's Cabernet Franc in it. So it's mainly Merlot. So we don't have Merlot here. A lot of people think that's kind of like a 1980s thing. So this is our closest thing to Merlot. It's also poured by the glass. So the Cabernet Franc gives it like that peppery if you're looking for something. I think it pairs well with like sausages or like even like our Sunday sauce, because that comes with meatballs and sausages and rigatoni. It pairs really nicely with things like that. Because
we're going to decide that every single one of these wines goes with sausages.
Yeah, literally. I think everything goes. Well, I like the peppery with the sausage. I don't know why, especially if it's like sweet Italian sausage. It just it works well together.
Right. And then what do you have here?
So this is something really interesting. It's Aglianico grape, and it is Coré is how it's pronounced. And the Aglianico grape is basically the Cabernet grape of Italy, if you will.
It's one of the oldest grapes, isn't it?
It's one of the oldest grapes. And getting a little nerdy, a lot of the grapes are grown on volcanic soil. Campania is where Mount Vesuvius is. It also was the name of our other restaurant that we had in Connecticut. Right. So Campania wines are very near and dear to us. So if you're looking to drink an Italian wine and don't want to come in and get a bottle of like Napa Cab or anything, the Coré is going to be one of the most similar styles that we have. Right. It is definitely a little bit more robust and not as jammy and fruity because there's also not as much sugar in it. But it is very similar. And I mean, it's one of my favorite wines on the menu, if you can't tell. It pairs really well with, like a bolognese sauce or like a lamb bolognese short ribs or something like that. Even with like a steak, you could sit down and eat this with like a New York strip or a ribeye and be fine.
So this would be the sort of wine then also if someone is getting a bottle and they're pairing it across multiple courses.
Yes.
That this would be something that is pretty flexible. This is what people in Campania would be drinking with their meal. This is your bottle to go sort of across the board. And so what do we have here?
So moving on, I did pull a Terra Valentine. This is a new vineyard. They just started distributing. It's not a new vineyard, excuse me. They just started distributing to restaurants and to liquor stores. Small, family owned and operated. That's why I fell in love with their story. Yeah. It is from Napa Valley, and the price point is absolutely amazing. And the wine inside of that bottle is delicious.
Okay.
We pour it by the glass. It just is a traditional style Cabernet. This is a little bit more on the robust side, so it does have a little bit more like tannins and pepper in it. So to me, that's my more style of Cabernet.
Okay, I was going to say, because Cabernet Sauvignon is something that, it seems sort of the no-brainer. It's the one that people like, it's easy. I'll have a glass of Cab, exactly. Okay, and so this last one on the end?
Yes, that's Schaefer TD9 Napa Valley Blend. It is Merlot, Cabernet, and Malbec, so it's a very heavy gem, fruit-forward wine. We have people that come in here and this is all they drink, and they'll drink like 3 to 4 bottles of it a night.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered all of the reds, but it doesn't have to be this way. We don't just have to stick to all the reds. There's no reason that the whites and the rosés should be left languishing, left behind in summer, but we can make that shift if we're looking for something a little bit more well-rounded and full-bodied, and maybe a buttery Chardonnay or a a white Bordeaux, something that might appeal to your Sauvignon Blanc drinker and your Chardonnay drinker,
of course,
or a Viognier, or something of that sort of family that's just a little more complex and brings out more of those vanilla caramel notes that work just as well in winter.
Definitely.
So with that being said, what have you
so we're gonna
chosen?
Go back to Campania region for a second. We're gonna, the Fiano di Avellino. A lot of what people don't know is that a lot of grapes from Italy are just aged in stainless steel. So that's why you don't get much oak and you don't get those nut flavors and what you're saying is vanilla. And so that's why like Pinot Grigios are just very drinkable wines, very light. So Fiano di Avellino is a grape that is aged in some French oak.
Okay.
So that's why you kind of get a little bit more of a color to it.
That's what we have here.
It is, you still get a tiny little bit of citrus because it's done in stainless steel and it's done in oak, but it definitely has more of those nuttier flavors. It's definitely heavier. You get more of a mouthfeel when you're drinking this.
Sure.
This could stand up to like, if you're piccata sauces. I mean, you could even drink this with like Fra Diavolo, the spiciness from the Fra Diavolo with the Fiano pairs really well. Give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's delicious.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And you see the after effect, you get that oak.
Yeah, you get the oakiness to it. And it's tart in the front, and it's really it's got great mouthfeel to it.
It does.
So something like this, considering how, when you think about a delicious, saucy Italian pasta, this would cut through some of the fat and be brighter, maybe than kind of bogging it down with a really heavy, jammy red, right?
Of course,
something
even
like
something with like a cream sauce, even like if you're making fettuccine alfredo one night, or even vodka sauce or something like that. It definitely cuts through all. To me, I prefer to drink something like this with that richness than a jammy, because then I just kind of feel like a slug after.
Yeah, it's too heavy at that point, right?
It's heavy and heavy, and that's a lot.
Oh, I definitely think this would be great with an Alfredo or with something cheesy.
So then moving on, we're going to a Pouilly Fumé.
This is one of my favorite wines.
Me too. That's why I chose it.
Okay.
Think of a Sincere. It's a Sauvignon Blanc grape, so think of Sincere and Chardonnay having a baby.
Okay.
And this is what you get. And those are two of my favorite grapes, so I absolutely adore this wine. And
I think this has wide appeal. I think most people who taste this, no matter whether they are the Pinot Grigio drinker or your Chardonnay drinker, this seems to work for pretty much everybody. So, and then what do we have on the end here? It's a New World. I see it's Oregon.
It is. It's Gran Moraine. It is an Oregon Chardonnay. So I know you were talking about Chardonnays being oaky and buttery and all of these flavors. That is in this wine, but it's a 7 out of 10 compared to like a Napa Valley, Russian River Valley type of Chardonnay. So this wine is super sophisticated and is very drinkable, and pairs, for me in our restaurant, pairs better with our food than a Napa or a like Russian River Valley heavy butter oak.
So is this something that might go with something a little bit lighter, like a zuppa de pêche or fish in general? Fish in general,
same kind of thing with the Fiano, like a piccata sauce or a French chase sauce, something like that, because you get the acidity from all the lemons and the capers and all that, and then pairing it with something that does have a little butter and oak into it is magnificent.
Sounds fantastic.
It's really good.
Sounds fantastic. Okay. Okay, so we're in Saratoga. Of course, you think about the summer season and sipping rosé and being at the track, but we don't have to leave rosé behind. And the difference, as I understand it, is that usually the winter releases of rosé are darker in color, more complex, more full-bodied, and it's definitely still something that you can drink all winter long. So is that your perspective?
Definitely. This particular rosé is, I would consider, a full-bodied wine. It is a Tavel rosé, and it is made up mainly of the Grenache grape, which is why you do get this darker color.
It's beautiful.
Okay, cheers for a second, and then we'll try it in a second. Yes, obviously you are right. I would consider this Tavel rosé a completely full-bodied wine. It is made up mainly of Grenache, which is why you do get this darker color compared to like a Provence-style rosé, which it sometimes could even basically look like water. Or
right, just tinted.
Exactly.
So
slightly tinted. So when you compare them, this intimidates a lot of people because they don't think it's like a true rosé, or they think it's Franzia from the box, because that's sometimes what it looks like, and they don't actually know that it's an absolutely delicious wine. This is, as we just tried it, we'll give it a swirl again.
Cheers.
It's definitely full-bodied. My favorite thing about it is how it has a backbone. It doesn't just, when you're at the racetrack or you're at the beach, you want something that tastes a little bit more like water, so it's a little bit easier to drink when you're in the sun. But when you're sitting down, during winter months, this could hold up to, you could eat this I'd eat it with pot roast.
Yeah. If you think about it, something like this would be another one of those wines that you could pair across a meal that's going to have pretty broad-based appeal.
Yep.
But again, those very pale, the salmon pink ones, if you've still got rosé from the summer, very often they'll age pretty well in your wine cellar, right? So leave them, don't be too, because we drink rosé so quickly in the summer, they're very young. I'm surprised there's any stock left, after the whole Yes Way rosé trend, right? So if you still have rosé from the summer, let it sit for a while and bust that out in the early cold months of the year, and it's going to have a different sort of complexity to it.
Oh, for sure.
But this is absolutely delicious.
One of my favorite things to eat with this from the menu is the beets and burrata salad with this wine. I don't know why, it's just very comforting.
So a winter salad, something that's on a little bit on the lighter scale of things.
A little bit on the lighter scale, but also, our panzanella salad that has the Brussels sprouts, the apple cider vinaigrette, they just go perfectly together.
Your mountain of eggplant chips.
Oh,
I would think that would be a marriage made in heaven.
That's a great aperitif.
I know we've been talking about winter and wines that are appropriate for really sort of good, stodgy comfort food. But of course, we're thinking about celebrations, the holidays. I'm a firm believer that you should be popping bubbly any time of year, anytime you can. I don't think you have to limit yourself. But that being said, we're probably not gathering to do major celebrations, but you could be home with your loved ones. You could be home by yourself, hunkering down under a duvet. So let's talk about sparkling wine. Let's talk about bubbly. Now, Champagne obviously is from the Champagne region in France, but there's lots of sparkling wine. So most people are going to be familiar with Prosecco. They're going to know Cava, which is obviously from Spain, and that's had quite a lot of popularity this year. And I'd love to talk a little bit about one of my favorites, Franciacorta, which is also Italian, but has much tighter, smaller bubbles, and to my mind is much closer to Champagne and at a more comfortable price point. So I'd love to chat with you a little bit about the bubbly you have here, and I know you've already poured us some as well.
I could drink champagne all year round, any time of the day. It's my favorite.
As you should.
Exactly. Franciacorta does have a special place in my heart. Obviously, it is the champagne from Italy. Many people think that Prosecco is, but Prosecco doesn't go through the second bottle fermentation like all champagnes do, which create the tighter bubbles, more bubbles. So that's why Franciacorta really, it's made the exact same way as champagne is from France. And that's why I prefer it over a Prosecco. And it's pretty similarly priced.
Right. More affordable.
I'm more of a Prosecco, Aperol Spritz, or Mimosa drinker. And then I'm more of a Franciacorta, sit down and have a great bottle of wine with a loved one or under your duvet cover, whichever you prefer.
Exactly, right? And a big bowl of pasta. I can see cacio e pepe and,
oh my gosh,
and a glass of Franciacorta.
It's amazing. I could drink it, aperitif style. I could drink it with an appetizer. I could drink it with raw seafood. And then, I'll sit down and drink this with surf and turf or cacio e pepe or something like that, because it is truly one of my favorites.
Should we taste it?
Yes, of course.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Delicious. Look at those teeny tiny bubbles.
I know.
And so I want to thank you again, Giovannina, for talking to me. And I think we should finish our glasses of champagne.
I think so. Thank you so much.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
So thanks for watching. Hopefully we gave you a good idea of some wines to get you through the winter. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider subscribing to the Albany Times Union. There are some introductory rates where it's just $1 a month. And you can always subscribe to the Albany Times Union YouTube and Facebook pages. And if you want to know more about where to eat, what to drink, places that are opening in the Hudson Valley and Capital Region and beyond, please visit my website, thedishing.com.